Hi, James. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Where are you based in the US?
Fort Worth, Texas, which is just west of Dallas, Texas.
Ah, okay. And have you lived there all your life?
No, no, I've only been here 10 years. Prior to that, it was Chicago. No, prior to that, it was Austin. Prior to that, it was Chicago and Houston and back Austin in college. And I grew up in Maryland.
Ah, in Maryland. Okay, then. Is that where you started swimming in Maryland when you were a youngster?
Yeah, I started summer league swimming, just the kind of 6 to 8 weeks or whatever it was, country club swimming, like five. And I clearly had a talent for it. And so I got, like most kids who show some talent, I got into it at club swimming at a young age. It was like 7.
Right. Wow. And then obviously you followed that all the way through high school and into college. Where did you go to college in America?
Well, just sort of, not quite. I actually quit swimming for about 3 years because I guess I got kind of burnt out, which is not that uncommon. And I can't even tell you why I picked it back up, but I did in the summer before my junior year of high school. And I had so much success in just a few months that I attracted a lot of interest from colleges.
Yeah.
And I ended up going to the University of Texas.
Okay. Wow. And who was the coach there on your college team?
Eddie Reese, who is still the coach.
Yeah. Very famous, obviously. And what was it like being on that team back then?
It was extremely intense. I was from day one determined to prove I belonged there, because I was a very small fish in a very very big pond. Olympians, world record holders, just the list goes on. After the my freshman year started in 1999, and then my sophomore year after the 2000 Olympics, we had, I think it was 8 Olympians who were current student athletes or pro, former student athletes training with us. And so very few people can say they swam with that many Olympians, day in and day out. And so it was extremely intense. It was 100 times more difficult than anything I'd ever done in my life. And my freshman year, I was pretty sure I wasn't going to make it. Um, I just, of the briefest moments, I thought of quitting many times because I was just exhausted 24/7. But then my body adapted. It just took some time to adjust. And yeah, I spent the next 3 years there, and unfortunately, my career plateaued when I was a junior, and then it kind of fell apart when I was a senior.
Why did it fall apart?
uh, that's a good question. It's actually, this has been a topic of conversation lately around here. But I think it was several factors. I got more involved with my now wife, and um, and so I wasn't just a swimmer and a student. I was also in love,
Right.
and um, and I think too that really the biggest thing was I had huge gains after my freshman year, after my body adapted to the training. And I think that when you do new things, so long as they're positive, that you're going to see gains from them. And it was simply a matter of going from a relatively small club high school program to an extremely intense one. And so my time shot, shot way down. Um, and then after adjusting to it, my body was kind of like, actually, this isn't really good for us. And it's easy to look at it in retrospect, but in retrospect, I was never built to be a traditional swimmer. I was never built to do 12 100s breaststroke on 120, 5 300s breaststroke pull, all that stuff. None of that stuff. And so my body had kind of had it with that. And then the third factor was that in my eagerness um, to like prove I belong there, I dove in head first, no pun intended, my freshman year and just worked my butt off as hard as I could. But I didn't put a whole lot of thought and time into how to properly race 100 breaststroke or a 200 breaststroke. I didn't put a whole lot of patience and time into improving my stroke. And neither my stroke technique nor my race strategy were good, period. But certainly not good for who I am and my build.
Right. And did you carry any injuries through that time?
Nope.
No.
No, no, I was a lucky breaststroker who didn't really have injuries in college, even though, in college, you probably know the W sit where you sit with your bottom between your feet,
Yeah.
to improve your breaststroke flexibility. And, I used to do that laying totally flat on my back in a streamlined position, trying to get all my back, my butt, everything pressed against the mat. It's terrible for your knees.
Yes.
Um, but what's even more impressive than surviving 4 years of that was that at 40, I still don't have any issues.
That's
But I take really good care of myself.
yes. Yeah. Well, that leads me into I wanted to dive straight into your master's career where you're kicking goals left, right, and centre. You recently swam a lifetime best in your 100 breaststroke. How are you
Correct.
able to do that as like how are you able to beat your college self now as a 40-year-old? What have you done? Tell us what you've done. Tell us your secret.
The secret is to throw out everything you know
Right.
and start over, and to sacrifice everything. Um, I mean, you know, it it's been a very long journey. Um, it's been an emotional journey. I, as I said, I finished my college career on a very low note, and I finished as a 55.2 breaststroker. And at the time, that wasn't bad. These days that's not great. But at the time, it was pretty good. However, it just missed qualifying for NCAA championships by like, 3/10, and I did that for 2 years in a row. And my first 3 years, we won NCAA championships. And I didn't get to go to that meet because I just missed qualifying. And then my senior year, I went the same times I went my freshman year. And so when I left college, I had a really bitter taste in my mouth. And I always knew, and all that time for the years after, that I could go faster. I knew I could go faster. And I so desperately wanted to break 55, and achieve that goal. And eventually, within a few years after graduating, I gave up on competing. I love the sport of swimming with all of my body, and I love training. I am just a workhorse. Honestly, my preference is 2 hour practices that are 8,000 meters long. I love it. And so I continued like that for several years after. until I gave up on competing because I got so tired of seeing the same times. I just couldn't handle it emotionally, and I was fed up. But I loved training, so I said, you know what? I'm just going to train. And I figured I would never go back to competing ever again. And and then in 2015, I think it was, so about 12 years after I left college, in 2015, for whatever reason, I decided to do another meet. And sure enough, I got the same damn results. You know, it was, and all this time, in all these 12 years, I was training like I wanted to compete. I was training hard. And I guess I was hoping at this meet that somehow something would be different, and there would be some kind of spark, and which is stupid, because if you train the same way, you're going to get the same results. And for me, it was just a continuation of college training, doing the same old stuff. And and so I kept competing, I kept getting the same results, and I was getting pissed off again. And finally I said to myself in 2018, it's time to put up or shut up. And if you have any um, uh, road left in front of you, given your age, then now is the time to make it happen. And you're probably done, because at the time I was like, 2018, so I was like coming up on 37. And so, and traditional swimming says you can't get faster when you're in your late 30s, right? And so I said to myself, geez, this probably isn't even possible. But I am tired of going to meets, the few meets I go to, and being pissed off about the times. And so either I need to just shut up and enjoy the ride and just appreciate that I get to do it, or I need to do something about it and change how I am approaching the sport. So I did, and I threw out everything, all of it, uh, and started down this path that I'm currently on, which is, Monday, Wednesday, Friday is less than 1,000 meters in the, and it's usually about 700. It's just to warm up to go lift. Um, but it's very intense lifting. It's like an hour 20, an hour 30 of the heaviest lifting I can do. And then Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday is the most intense breaststroke swimming that I can do. And it's definitely been an evolution for sure from 2018 to now. But in general, it's still the same philosophy of no garbage yardage, no BS stuff. You warm up just enough to go fast. There's no more like 2,000, 1,500, 2,000 meter warm up, followed by a kick set that really has no purpose, followed by a main set that's, another 2,000, followed by a warm down set. Like, there's none of that. It's straight to how hard can I push myself, and for how long can I push myself? And people who hear that, they typically go, oh, yeah, it's USRPT. And it's not at all USRPT. I'm assuming you're familiar with that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, most people are by now with Michael Andrew and everything. But USRPT in its purest sense says you warm up a few hundred basically, because you don't want to waste any motions that aren't at a race pace. And from there, you go into 25s and 50s mostly that are just, 100%. And my training is not that way. I still very much value drill work. I still very much value some kicking, especially early in the season. So I still do kicking, particularly with the brick, which you mentioned you want to talk about. And And then when I do my racing sets, usually it is it is typically short distance, like 50s. Although we'll get into how that's changed in a second. But typically 50s. And my favorite set, it's the perfect example of the work that I do, is 4 rounds of a 50 all out, followed by 350s that are easy, not non-breaststroke. So a 50 breaststroke all out, 350s, no breaststroke, easy. Just make the interval. And those are on like 55 seconds. And this is a short course meters pool. Then I go 4 rounds of one breaststroke 50 all out, 250s easy. Okay, so you see where this is going. And then it's 4 rounds of a 50 all out and a 50 easy. Usually as I go through, like the 1 and the 2, that's on a minute. Then the 1 and the 1, that's 105. So I add a little bit of rest. I have yet to make it all the way down to 450s fast because my body gives out.
Right.
But it's exactly what I need to be doing. It's taking my body to 100% of race pace and letting it hit that wall, and then just keep hitting that wall over and over until the wall breaks and I find the next wall that is my barrier to getting faster, if that makes sense, you know. And I go to muscle failure. Like my sets are what I call fail to succeed. You go until your body just breaks, and you keep going until you lose proper form.
Right.
So unlike race pace training, USRPT, where it's just race, 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 like I include active recovery to bring my, bring my heart rate back down, flush out some lactic acid before I hit it again.
Yes. So you're doing that three times a week, every session. You're doing that kind of training.
That kind of training, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like it's tough. It's grueling.
Mm.
But what I found is that throughout my career, when I did stuff like 12/100s breaststroke, I was doing it as best I could, but I'm not built to swim good breaststroke for 12/100s. Like I can't hold form. It becomes what I call the old wreck swimmer breaststroke, you know, where you're just kind of low in the water, cruising through because you're trying to survive. And breaststroke especially, it is so dynamic, or it should be so dynamic and explosive. I don't really understand, having been through all these years of training, how you can really do long breaststroke sets explosively, dynamically, for that long. In my opinion, in my experience, for me, it's not possible. And so I gave up on that. And also my breaststroke, the technique itself has changed so completely. When I was in college too, it was a different kind of stroke. These days you have the Adam Peaty kind of stroke where you're getting up so high in the water and then you're slamming your head back down, and it's so high tempo, so aggressive. It wasn't so much that way back in 2000. And but that's the way my stroke was back then, kind of the standard 2000 breaststroke. And what I realized was like, I'm a strong person. Like I am naturally a pretty strong person. And like in college, I was always one of the stronger guys. And so, I just looked at it and said to myself, if I'm going to do this, I need to be more like Adam Peaty. I mean, that guy's huge.
Yeah.
I need to be big, strong, powerful. And so I really overhauled my technique to get up higher in the water and then to slam my head down forward. And that took a full 3 years. And I can say that only just now, like within these last few months, am I at a place where I consider my technique to be where I want it to be.
Right.
It
Did
took
you
three
have
years.
it's a long process to change something that's so inground from your college years. Did you have help
Yeah,
in changing that, or did you do that by yourself?
I did it by myself. I videoed myself, set up a tripod and would video and see. Everything I do is by myself. All of my training, I have no teammates. I don't have a coach. It's all by myself.
Right. That's amazing. So where do you get the motivation and inspiration to do that by yourself all the time?
Well, I have a few screws loose and a few wires that aren't connected quite right. Um, most people, they have enough sense to move on after college and experience new things. Um, eh, you know, I love this sport. I love it more than anything. I love the community, the people. It's my passion. But like I said, I also had that bitterness, that anger that really kept me going as well. And so, when I embarked before I embarked on this journey, I did swim with like a local club team and sometimes a local masters team. But when you're looking to completely disrupt how you do your training, you can't do that within a team.
Yeah.
You can't you it's somewhat besides the fact that it's just rude to do your own sets in the middle of somebody else's practice. It's just logistically it's very difficult. And so I gave up all that, um which wasn't easy because I love having teammates, even if they're 16 years old, club swimmers, or 40, 50, 60-year-old master swimmers. Like I love having teammates. And so to give that up wasn't easy. And it took some adjustment for sure. But I've gotten so used to it now that I don't know if I could go back.
Yeah, okay. So when you race in masters comps in the US, do you still race with a local masters team? Are you a member of a masters club?
I was for a while, but I've since gone unattached. Just because, again, I don't train with anyone, so it doesn't really seem right to represent anyone. Um, I may go to Masters Nationals and represent Lone Star Masters, which is like the Texas Masters team, for the state of Texas. But I so much of what I do is still USA swimming. And so when I do masters meets, they're typically training meets to like help me work out the kinks in my racing kind of thing. It's not so much like the end goal, like masters nationals for me. If I go, that's not my big meet.
Right.
My big meet is going to be a meet called sectionals. So in the States, we have sectionals, and that's a level below junior nationals, um, in terms of the hierarchy. And so I'm going to go to that in early March. And then I might go to US Masters Nationals in April. And if I go there, it'll be to try some different events that I don't normally get to do, like 50 fly, 100 fly, 200 IM. Because for a breaststroker, I'm actually really good at dolphin kick.
Right. That's good to know. You've got such a busy professional life. How do you structure your training around work and family? So you mentioned that you don't get up early to train anymore. So what time of the day do you fit in your training?
My day looks like this. I get up about 6:45 to get my youngest daughter, who is 8, off to school, and then my two oldest, who are 11 and 14. Their classes start later in the day, like a little after 9 o'clock. And so after I get my youngest out, I come back and then get them out. Um, Once I drop them off, I usually go straight to the pool. And so I start my dry land activation about 9:30, and then I get in the pool. about 10, my activation is about 10 minutes long. And for anyone who isn't familiar with activation, I highly recommend it, because it is a way for you to start your swimming off really well from the very first stroke. It's the warm up to the warm up. And so as when you hop in, you're just ready to go. There is no like, the first 500 you're working out the kinks kind of thing. Like your muscles are awake and ready. And so especially when sometimes I'm only doing 700 meters, I need to be ready to go right away. So I work out, in heavy training. I work out from like essentially 9:30 to about 11:30, and as I said, either it's a heavy weight day, lifting day, or a heavy swimming day, but not both. And and then I get home a little before noon, and admittedly, I am in a fortunate position in that I own my own businesses. The one is a swim school, and so our classes usually start about 11 o'clock and go through the evening. And then the other is a retail business, fikeswim.com, which is like Speedo, but just a touch smaller. Um, and so I pretty much get a lot of flexibility and set my own hours, which helps with this whole like going rogue, training different thing. But yeah, it's nonstop to be sure, because that 9:30 to, well, really with travel and everything, about 9 to 12, that's a big chunk of the day I'm not working. And so that has to be made up elsewhere in the day. And typically it gets made up towards the evening, like after the kids go to bed. And I, do more emails and whatnot, right? Because as nice as it is to own your own business and have flexibility, it's a ton of work.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't, you can only kick the can down the road so far before it catches up to you. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Absolutely. And obviously, you just mentioned Fike Swim. I wanted to talk to you about that. You're the founder and CEO of Fike Swim. And one of your first product was really innovative called the Brick. Tell us about that and how it works.
Hmm. So the Brick is a weighted kickboard. It weighs 6 pounds, and it has only enough buoyancy to support itself. So if you put even a hand on the board, it's going to sink. Which, as we all know as swimmers, a regular board can support a lot of weight, and it can support a lot of social kicking and, social time that you're not too focused on what you're doing, because you've got this lovely, buoy that's keeping you up. Um, and so with the Brick, as when you grab it, you have to engage your core in order to keep your whole body up, because otherwise you'll sink. And the beauty of it, when I first created it in 2015, was I thought it was just going to be hard, make your life harder, simply by kicking, that your legs were going to get more of a workout. Um, but the beauty of it is that because you have to engage your core, which is something a swimmer should be doing anyway, that through muscle memory short term carries over to swimming after you use the Brick. So if you do like a few hundred yards or meters with the Brick, and then you start swimming, you'll notice that your core has remembered to stay engaged, at least briefly. And you should notice that you're higher in the water. And so the benefit there is it gives you the awareness. It's not going to do the work for you and make you automatically a better swimmer, but you just need that light bulb to go off and say, oh, that's how I should be positioned in the water. And it gives you something to strive for going forward. And when I created it in about 2015, I was looking for a harder kick set because at the time, again, I was still doing traditional training, and like just in love with kick, and really at Texas, uh, kick was king. Eddie Reese is a huge proponent of kick, and so I loved kicking, always looking for new and innovative ways to do kick sets. And one day I saw a brick on the side of the pool, like an actual brick.
Oh,
And so I put it on my kickboard to weigh it down and just see how that would be. And it was really tough. It was really hard. But because I was trying so hard to also keep the brick on the board, keep it from falling to the bottom of the pool and cracking the plaster. It was really more of a leg workout, which is why I thought at the time, oh, this is just going to be like a really great leg workout. But it turned into so much more than that. I contacted. It was a little scary because I had no experience in the retail product business, none whatsoever, let alone sourcing product from China. I'd heard horror stories about, losing your money to some, fly by night or fake operation over there. But I had no clue how to like tell them what I wanted. And so originally I thought, okay, I'm going to try to do the made in the USA thing. But every manufacturer in the US who could do this, what I wanted, which was to essentially put the brick inside the kickboard, told me to go to China because it was just going to be too expensive to do USA made. So I went to Alibaba.com, and if you're not familiar with that, it's like the Amazon of China. You can get, I mean, even more so, you can get anything on Alibaba. Um, and I just, as a former investment banker and a financial analyst and everything else, like I had a background in doing like due diligence and research, and so I applied those skills to looking up the suppliers on Alibaba and finding one that might be a match. But you can only do so much due diligence because you can't go there in person unless you've got a ton of money and time on your hands, which I didn't,
yeah.
and unless you can hire an interpreter or speak the language yourself. And so all you're relying on are these profiles that are listed on Alibaba.com, which may or may not be complete garbage.
Right.
Um, and so anyway, long story short, I went process, and luckily I found an excellent manufacturer who I'm still with today, and I didn't lose my shirt. Um, However, I did lose $10,000 because a hacker took over their email account or something and convinced my import broker that they were the legit manufacturer, and we wired $10,000 to them and never saw it again.
Oh, wow.
So,
That's a buyer
but
beware story. What do they put
so
into the board to make it heavy? Obviously, because it just looks like a outwardly foam kickboard, so it's a little bit
right,
thinner, but
right. It's iron that's nickel plated to prevent rusting, um, and it weighs, like I said, 6 pounds.
yeah. Oh, wow. So now you ship all over the world with that?
Yeah, we do. And we've had folks from Australia who pay the exorbitant shipping. I think the last one was like $120 in shipping, um, because the weight makes it cost so much more. And
Yes.
these days, with freight being as expensive as it is, it's extraordinary. But so yes, we will ship all over the world. Whether you're willing to pay for it or not is a different question.
Yeah, that's right. Look, I like to ask everyone that comes on the podcast the fast five. So just five very quick questions. First thing that pops into your mind about swimming,
Okay.
not too onerous. Favorite pool Favorite pool that you've ever swum at?
Favorite pool? It's probably still the Texas A&M pool in College Station, Texas. Phenomenal pool, beautiful. There's so many I've been fortunate to swim at, and the University of Texas one is of course wonderful. But I think because I spent day in and day out there, it's a little bit more. It's not as special, as going to a different place you never go to. And the A&M pool is it's just beautiful. It's fast.
Sounds very nice. Favorite weight training exercise?
Probably deadlifts. In college, we we had a very traditional set of exercises. It was squats, bench press, lat pull downs, the typical stuff. Um, since I started this journey, I've expanded what I do, and the probably the best addition has been deadlifts, just for the full body work. But when you're looking at what the best exercise is as a swimmer and especially a breaststroker, it's really hard to beat pull-ups.
Yeah, yeah. I think pull-ups are a bit of a go-to, but hard for master swimmers if they haven't had that background like you have. Yeah. Um, Kick or pull? I think you've already answered this.
It's actually a more complicated question or answer than you think. Um, I guess, if you're talking about like pulling with paddles and buoy, that kind of thing, versus kicking with a board, um, I would probably still choose kicking with a board, or I should say the brick. But um, my thinking has changed completely on the importance of kicking. The standard way of thinking about breaststroke is that it is more heavily driven by kick than the other three strokes, and so therefore you must do a lot of breaststroke kicking.
Yeah.
But and I tried to adhere to that, for a long time, and the problem was I was doing so much in the weight room, and trying, just all of my swimming was so intense, whether it was swimming or kick sets. And that kicking, with the legs being the biggest muscles in the body, they get worn out so quickly, and it's so hard to get them to recover if you dig a hole too deep for them. And so I backed off the kicking almost completely. Like, if you look at my practices, I really only do a little bit of kicking to warm up my legs so that they're ready for swimming. And except in the first couple weeks of a training cycle, in the first couple weeks of training cycle, I do more traditional kicking. But after that, I let it go. And the whole thinking was, because it was hard to do. It's hard to be like, okay, I'm just not going to kick anymore. But the thinking was, look, I am swimming in practice and in races faster than I have ever swum. I am killing it. And so until my swimming starts slowing down, I'm going to listen to what my body, and specifically my legs, are telling me. And I'm going to cut out the kicking and just focus on the stuff that is working.
Yeah, that sounds like the right way to go, definitely. It's great that you're able to tune in and listen to what your body is telling you. I think a lot of people sort of bypass that.
You have to, especially when you're a master swimmer. You have to listen. As a 20-year-old, you can kind of ignore it, even though you probably shouldn't. You can ignore it and grind and grind and grind. But when you're a master swimmer, if you and I think this is what one of the things that's so hard for master swimmers, especially ones who have competed in college. It's, how do you accept that you're not what you once were?
Yes.
And and how do you say to yourself, you know what? I've only done 500 meters so far today, but my body is telling me that it is done and I'm just going to get out. You know, we're not built, swimmers aren't built that way. We are built to be like sled dogs and
Yeah.
just go and go and go and go. And honestly, the greatest lesson I've learned in all of this is knowing when to stop, listening to my body and understanding that usually the best thing you can possibly do for yourself in that moment, for your season as a whole, is to get out of the pool and go home.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great advice. Very good. Last question. Favorite pre-race meal?
Uh, I'm, I don't know, I'm pretty boring. You had guys like Mike Berriman who always had a Big Mac, as his pre-race meal, and that's at least that's kind of interesting, even if it's wrong. Um, for me, if it's a prelims finals meet, I'm just, the night before I'm eating pasta, chicken, vegetables, the boring stuff. And in the morning, I'm eating oatmeal with berries, maybe some chocolate to get a little bit of caffeine, some toast for some added carbs, a banana for potassium. And I try to go heavier on my breakfast, even when my stomach is saying, no, I'm about to throw up. um, because I've learned that I pretty much, that's the one way I don't listen to my body. I have to push through that feeling because I know that if I give into it and I don't eat, um, come warm up for the meet, my stomach's going to be growling and I'm going to be all in my head about whether or not I've fueled enough. And so I just push through it. And eventually the feelings of puking go away
Good.
and it's all fine.
That's good. Good to know. James, thank you so much for joining us today on the podcast. It's been a pleasure hearing about your swimming journey, and good luck with getting faster in that 100-meter short course yards time.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I expect to get faster again in a couple of weeks, but I'm going to turn my attention to long course, which y'all are more familiar with, and maybe try to qualify for Olympic trials at the age of I don't know what it would be, 42 or something. So,
That's it. That's a great goal. Yeah.
yeah.
What's the qualifying time for the Olympic trials?
Well, it was this past trials 103.2,
Okay.
but every time it gets faster.
Yeah.
And so I would expect it's going to be either 103.0 or can't even say it, 102.9. So
And where are you at long course at the moment?
I'm at 104.3.
Okay.
And so it's doable. You hear that and it's like, oh man, you're over a second off. But the only reason I think I'm not hitting 103.0, besides the fact that I don't get three turns, is uh, I haven't raced and really trained long course. And there's a lot to be said for racing. Part of my success is also due to racing much more frequently than I used to, which was like 4 times a year. And now it's 1 to 2 times a month. And in doing that, you learn how to race. So I think if I can devote some more time to racing long course meters, I can bring that down.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, definitely. I think race practice helps the ultimate race that you're going for. So
Yeah,
definitely.
and it's just unfortunate that for master swimmers these days, since COVID, there just seem to be so few. I don't know about in Australia, but there seem to be so few meets.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, we're starting to open up a little bit here now, but yeah, we really haven't had, well, we haven't had our Masters Nationals for 2 years.
Boom.
Fingers crossed it's going ahead this coming April, but yeah, we'll wait and see.
Wow. Well, yeah, good luck to you.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you very much, James, and it's been lovely getting to know you. So, good luck with all your swimming heading forward.
Thank you. Thank you. Hopefully I can come back on your show one
Yeah, that'd be lovely. Give us an update.
day.
Okay,
Will
bye
do.
for now.
Bye.